Boston College football has a pair of running backs this year that is going to make their running attack even more explosive than in 2023.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm also the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Thank you all of you who have made Boston Locked On BC your first listen every day. And for all you everydayers out there, thank you so much. We are a daily Boston College podcast. We're the only one out there. We appreciate all of you who have made us your first listen every morning. So today's show, camp is starting to wrap up, and we have three major topics that we need to talk about that we've seen at camp over the last 2 weeks. We'll look at the running back situation. How are the running backs going to be used, and how could they be the most impactful for the Eagles in 2024? Some of the issues that we've seen with Thomas Castellanos and why you may worry, but there's reasons not to. I'll explain why. And finally, we're going to look at some of the other things that have been coming up at camp, including a quarterback that we've seen a lot more out of that has improved, and I'll explain who that is in our final segment. So we had a reader reach out on Eagles Nest, and they asked me to talk about how Boston College is going to use their running back rooms. They said they get Kai Robichaux and Treshaun Ward. You have two running backs this year. Both of them throughout camp have had significant snaps with the first team. And I got a chance to talk to Savon Huggins on the media day too, to get a better perspective on how he envisions this running back room to be used. Now, the simplistic way many people may say about this running back group is that you have a power back, and Kai Robichaux is that power back. We saw him last year. That's the guy, you hand him the ball, he's going to bowling ball off and get you 5 or 6 yards every time he touches the ball. He was effective last year when he was healthy, and that was great. But you also have Treshaun Ward, and in the simplistic view of him is he's the more elusive one and one with better hands. And when I've watched it at camp, that has been what I've seen. That's the perspective I have. When BC wants to do more of the physical running game, they go with Robichaux and they pass it more. But when I talked to Savon Huggins about it, he said two things I thought that were really interesting. One, Kai Robichaux has better hands than you may expect. That even though Ward is the guy that's doing that a lot more in practices, don't sleep on what Robichaux can do in the passing game. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe that's what we're going to see more of, but I don't remember seeing Robichaux as being a big part of that pass game last year, but maybe he will be. I still haven't seen it at camp either, but it was an interesting thing to hear that piece. And the other piece that he said was that Ward can still be a power back himself. That we've seen, he's a complete running back. Both of these guys are complete running backs, and they can do everything. And it sounds like to me, the perspective I got from the coaching staff is the biggest piece that they want is something you probably all listening saw last year, which is the wear and tear of being a power back, like we saw with Robichaux last year, can take the mileage off of his legs and make, cause injuries, cause him to miss time. And the reason they brought Treshaun in was not to get a running back that does a whole different thing than what Robichaux does, but to get another guy in there so that they're not just relying on Robichaux all the time. The perspective that they were giving me is that it's not package specific with these two. It's personnel specific. Like, they don't want Kai Robichaux out there running the ball 30 times and wearing down and missing games because he's getting himself banged up. That's why they have, Ward there to kind of relieve a bit of that the workload off of him so that he can be fresher as the season goes on. I think that's important. The other piece with the running back room, as I brought up in the last couple episodes, I went to practice again on Tuesday, and they're still at two scholarship running backs. You have Treshaun Ward and Jordan McDonald. The hope has to be that you're going to get at least one other guy back that can work with you. I would hope that's Turbo Richard. Turbo has looked the best out of the guys behind these two in the summer. But don't sleep on Dottrell Jones. Dottrell goes by Dada Jones, by the way. That's what they call him. Dada had some great, or Day Jones. I got it wrong. Day Jones. He has, Dada is what my kids call me. Day had before he's missed some practices. He looked really good too. So the hope has to be, as this season goes on, that as this running back room gets healthier, that you have 3 or 4 guys that you can cycle in and out and keep those legs fresh, because you have the talent now in that running back room. I looked at last year's running back room, and you saw it later in the season. You had Patrick Garwo and you had Kai Robichaux, but it was like Robichaux was in a world of his own. Garwo could do some things, and then you had like Alex Broom, but he's a very specific type of running back. He's 5'9" or 5'8", right? And then you had all these other running backs, whether it was Xavier Coleman, Cameron Barfield, these smaller scat backs that just couldn't do what you needed them to do. Now your running back room is filled with solid running backs that can fill in, that can do what you need them to do to get this offense moving. So my guess, based off of what I saw in the spring game, is that Alex Broom, my guess is he's probably not going to play this year. I mean, he had a leg brace and crutches in that spring game. We all saw that. That's not something I'm hiding or anything like that, right? He hasn't practiced this summer, so it doesn't seem to me like he's going to be a factor. But that's okay, because you have all these other guys that can do what you need them to do. And at the top, you're going to have the two, your Lightning and Thunder there with Ward and Robichaux. But I think what the theme of this is that BC's running back room, the running backs themselves, they brought both of these guys in because they can do the similar things. They have different styles, but they can, I think from what I've heard and what I've seen, they're both supposed to be able to do everything in the playbook that the other one can do. So don't just look at them as one guy's a power back and one is the speed back. They're both there to do like everything in that offense. And so I think that is what we're looking at in that running back room. Now, in our second segment, I want to look at Thomas Castellanos and what we've seen out of him so far this summer. There's been some moments where things have looked a little rocky, but I'm going to explain why that's not as big of a deal as you may think it may be. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Right now, there's a 50% off labor sale offer for Diamondbacks Dodgers. So you can see there's all sorts of great deals that you can find on Game Time, and with their Game Time Picks, it makes things a little easy. Okay. With Game Time, you can also get your tickets with their all-in prices. There's no hidden fees. It's all right there. I love that when they're listed right there. You don't get a surprise. The price is what you're paying for those all-in seats. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. I had two quick uh, bets that I made on Tuesday night. Bet against the Red Sox. Took the money line right there. And then Matsuhisa Yoshida, I put down at two bases plus. I'm hoping to nail on both of those. Those were two I was looking at. He's been on a hot streak. Feel like he's hitting really well, and I think the Red Sox are falling apart. So we'll see how my bets go. We'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And if you are done with this show, let me tell you a second listen you got to check out. I want you to get in and check out the college football previews. College football is back, and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12. You can get it all from Locked On's stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football Podcast, who has a chance to make the playoffs, what teams will cause chaos in their new conferences, everything you need to know, all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Boston College here, AJ Black. So I've been giving practice reports up on my website for every practice that I've gone to, and I've been to about 10. And as the summer has kind of dragged on, and the grind is real. As someone who gets to go to these practices, like after a while, it's like it gets kind of monotonous. You'd be surprised. Like sitting there for 2 hours and watching the drills over and over again, you start to see the same things over and over again. And one thing I've seen from people's reactions to my articles is a fear of what's going on with Thomas Castellanos. So let me give you a brief overview. This weekend, he struggled. They had, I think, 3 interceptions against him. And, no one on that offense could get the ball in the end zone. Like they just were struggling. Today, on Tuesday, he threw another interception. He had a couple more touchdowns in there, but they hit him. They had him struggling a little bit again. So folks have been asking, is Bill O'Brien's system going to hamper Castellanos to the point where, if he becomes more of just a throwing quarterback, is he going to struggle? Well, if you've heard Bill O'Brien talk, he's called him the most improved player on the team. And I don't have the worries of where Castellanos is at that many other folks may have. And here's why. Watching practice, it is incredibly clear to me, and it's you could watch it and you could see it yourself, that they are at practice just blowing plays dead when he runs. And it's not to punish him. It's not like they're punishing him. It's just so that he doesn't have to keep running. But if there's a play where he has no one open and he just stands there, he has a choice. He can either run and have the play dead, or he can try to force it. So there's been times where he's been forcing it. It's practice. He wants to see if he can do it. And sometimes those end up in interceptions, and that's just going to happen because I don't think he'd do the same thing in game time. The other piece is I think when he's running the ball, it's going to change what the defense does to him. Because right now, he doesn't run all that much. And I don't think that's going to be consistent when he gets going in the season. I mean, Bill O'Brien has said that's what makes him so dangerous. He's not going to take that away from him. And in practice, it doesn't make sense to have him running all the time because it's just going to wear him out. These practices go on for hours. You don't need to have Thomas Castellanos running around like a maniac for 2 hours. So they blow it dead. And that lets the defense kind of just sit back and play pass protection more often than not. And if they're just sitting on pass protection, it makes it harder on Castellanos. Now, if he's in a game time situation and he's able to bootleg out, run, look, get out of the pocket, because that's what he's a 5'9" quarterback, right? He can't just sit in the pocket constantly If he can't see what some of his reads are, he's got to bootleg it out. Like that's what Flutie did. That's what he's going to do to find those open guys and make those throws. So when he's doing that and he can run it if there's nothing open, that's going to make defenses much more. They're going to have to be honest about it, because if they sit back in pass protection, he can run and kill them. But if they come after him, which they're going to have to do when he runs the ball more, then there's going to be more passes there. So right now, to me, watching this offense, it's like you take the most lethal weapon that you have and kind of neuter it right now, just for the sake of how practices are running. So I don't see right now his issues as something that I am concerned about going into the season. There, I think there's also the thought too. There's 20 practices. You're playing against the same guys all the time. They know everything about you. They know every little, quirk that you have, every tendency you have. After and during the grind of all this, you may start to make some mistakes that you not normally make when it comes to game time. So I'm not concerned right now. I honestly, folks, like, I'm not going to go out here and say I think he's going to be like super explosive and everything's going to change. I just need to see what he does when they play Florida State. Like, I want to see what he does when it's an actual game situation, not just practices. When I watched him in the scrimmage, he was fine. When it's just doing situational football, yeah, there's been a few times where he hasn't looked that great. But again, it's practice. It's not the same thing. And if you go to any practice report from around the country, it's the defense that is constantly winning those battles. So BC could be fine. This could just be a situation where there's just been a few little glitches here. I think Thomas Castellanos is going to be a good quarterback this year. I do not think, I've seen other people saying like Grayson James is going to take over for him. I don't see that. Like Grayson James, I don't want to bash the kid, but he can make some bigger throws, but he makes way more mistakes. And that is not what Bill O'Brien is going to be looking for. So Bill O'Brien has been emphatic that Thomas Castellanos has been his quarterback. If he even had the slightest thought, I think he'd bring it up. But I really think that Thomas Castellanos will be the quarterback all season, as long as he can stay healthy. I think that'll be what we'll be seeing. Now, in our final segment, there's a few little quick news and notes I want to give you about from camp this week. You're going to want to hear about one player that we've seen a lot of that you may not even expect to see, and I'll explain why I've been impressed with what he has done so far at camp. It's summertime, which means it's barbecue season. Stock up on all your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get both. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, the flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store, Google Play Store, and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. And if you are done with this episode, you're looking for another listen, I'm telling you, check out Locked On ACC as we're getting closer to the season. Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono, they have everything going on over there. Find them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And I want to make sure that if you have not signed up to be a part of our Eagles Nest, that you do so already. I sent another video out today. Once the season goes, I'm going to give you depth chart analysis, details on, during games. I'm going to give you post-game breakdowns, all sorts of fun stuff. You can sign up. The details are in the show notes. Make sure you sign up for the Eagles Nest today. Now, wrapping things up, practice, as I said, it's getting to be a bit of a grind. We're seeing a lot of the same things, and they're as Bill O'Brien said, they're fine-tuning everything that they're doing right now. Now, there's been some guys, they're doing, a lot of maintenance at this point where, they're up to 16 or 17 practices out of 20. There's guys that are just out, right? And as I've said on previous episodes, you don't need to freak out about them being out. Like today, Reed Harris was out. I think he was just probably taking a day off. We saw Jaden Skeet and Jerron Bradley miss a couple days last week. It's just how they manage making sure guys don't get completely dinged up. So one guy that has missed practice has been Grayson James. He's been out for the last 2 or 3 practices. I don't know what's going on there. But Jacobe, because he's been out, redshirt freshman Jacobe Robinson has had a chance to play. And I'm going to say this. Earlier this summer, I've watched him and I go, he doesn't look like a quarterback that is close to being ready to be an ACC quarterback. When I watched him in the spring, early this summer. Now that he's getting a ton of reps right now at 2 because James has been out. He's progressed more and more over the last couple of days than I've seen all year from him. His passing game has looked good. He's exceptionally quick too. He's a big kid. He's got to be like 6'4", I think he is 6'4", 6'5". So when he runs, he looks like he like gallops. He's like just big. He's very different than Thomas Castellanos in that sense, but he can run. He's quick. But I've been impressed by his arm. He's made some good plays with his arm. Now he's still very much a redshirt freshman. I forget who picked him off today. Maybe it was Ashton McShane. He threw an interception that was just like nowhere near. And he has had issues where, like today too, where some passes where like guys are wide open and he's throwing behind them or missing, but it's still way better than what we saw with him. Like he's taking, from what I've seen, he's taking more of the offense and running with it. And I think with some more reps and some more comfort level, those passes will come. So he's been an interesting one to really watch him be successful because I just didn't think he was going to get there, and he's getting closer every single day. So Jacobe Robinson may be a name you might want to mark down on your book. And then another name, I just love talking about this guy because he's fun, is Owen McGowan had, I think, his 3rd interception of the summer that I've seen. I think he had 2 in the scrimmage last week, and then he picked off Castellanos again today. This is a kid that last year, remember he had that touchdown against Syracuse as a fullback. He's full-time linebacker now. They've got a kid, Hunter Clark, I think, that's going to probably be their fullback if they ever use it. And I haven't seen them using a fullback, but if they ever needed one, he looks more like a fullback. McGowan is full-time linebacker now, and he's with the 2s. So he's behind Bam Crouch and Cam Arnold. But, there's, I don't know what he's going to be able to do in terms of getting out there and being a playmaker, but he makes plays every time I see him out there. For a smaller linebacker, he's not big at all. He makes a ton of plays, and he's full of juice out there. So Owen McGowan, again, he's popped off a few times during camp. Now that's going to wrap up our episode. I want to tell you guys on Friday's show. So we have another episode and then Friday's show. Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider will be on with me to talk about our season preview, and we'll give our predictions of everything you want to hear about for this upcoming season. So you got to make sure that you like and subscribe to Locked On Boston College on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We're free wherever you get your podcast. So make sure that you are subscribed so you get all of our episodes. We're a daily Boston College podcast. We love doing this for you. Thank you all again. Join our Eagle Insiders program, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.